Hello all, welcome back to What's New in 2022 Release Wave 1. In today's video, we'll talk about release and reopen multiple document. Now, when I think about it and when I read about what's this feature, I actually go back and think about somebody requesting this feature on Twitter. And as being an app developer for all these years, I thought, why you expect everything to be done by Microsoft? We are developers and we should typically do these small devs if required. But now when I see this in product, I see the power of the community and the attention from Microsoft on a very small request in the idea side. So the person who requested it on Twitter went ahead and created an idea on Microsoft website. And guess what? Microsoft people, the community members voted on that idea. And here it is. We are discussing about it today, and Microsoft had made it available in 2022 release wave 1. So thank you, Microsoft, and thank you, community, to kind of voting on ideas that you think are useful for customers rather than creating them custom, as I was thinking as an app developer. So without wasting any more time on it, let's understand what it is. So the status of the document that's available, that is it open, is it released, or is it waiting for somebody to approve, or is it on prepayment? If you talk about the documents in Business Central, is very important for customers. And the way Microsoft is trying to do it is trying to solve it from multiple fronts. There are businesses which creates thousands of documents during the day, and it's very hard to kind of send them one by one to the approval and then gets it approved, or sending it individually and then gets it approved, because that's how it used to work till now. With this features being added in 2022 release wave 1, you can actually select multiple document and batch send them to kind of uh, being released or changing it back to open. The cool part is that if you have ever seen the batch invoice posting, this feature works on the similar lines, and it sends out a batch for release process or for the reopen process. So let's look in the product, what Microsoft have done, and then we'll talk about, if required, how technically that's possible. So if you go into the sales order window of the screen, what you'll notice that the status field, which is the important field that we're talking about, is now comes up with a color, which is a visual representation of is that document is still open or is it had been released. If it is still open, it will be marked as green. If it is already released, it will be marked as a bold black in color, as you can see on the screen. Now, that's one part of help on identifying by the user that what's the status of this document. But at the same time, what you can do is you can select multiple documents. Like, let's say I chose these 4 documents for that matter. And I'll do as I used to do in the past. I'll go into the release action and then hit on release. What happens? You get a confirmation window that what you're trying to do is you have selected 4 documents and you're trying to release those 4 documents. If, and let me choose no and choose a already released document. And let's see how the message changes. If I try to say release, it'll say that you have selected 5, but out of those 5, one is already released. So I'll be skipping it during the process. And do you want to continue to kind of going through this batch release process? Now, what happens in that release process if there is an error message, it doesn't, you know, kill the whole routine. It just skips that order, and at the end of the processing, it shows you the errors that are available in the documents that it was unable to release. So let's give it a try and let's say yes. So when I say yes, it shows you a progress window, and then at the end of it, it showed you an error message saying that the sales order SORD 101007 There's nothing to release because maybe that document is empty. But other than this document, all other documents which I have selected should have been changed to the release status. So let's go back and see. So all other are released, only this one is left open. You can still use it in the old way by just selecting one document and hitting that action. The behavior will be same. So that's what this feature is about. But let's wait for a while and think about it. That I'm a little bit surprised that Microsoft, as of today, have only added it into the sales order screen or the sales area in the business center. It's not yet available in other documents, but I'm pretty sure as per the documentation in the future releases or maybe in the cumulative update, this feature gets added in the in other areas of business center. But it seems a pretty interesting one. So let's go and understand how technically Microsoft try to achieve this. So let me open my VS Code, and first let me see the page number for this so that we can navigate exactly there. Okay, help and support, and then inspect page and data. Okay, so this is page number 9305. Okay, let's open VS Code and go to the base app. Try to filter the object. Okay, there's the page. And if we search for the field status, you'll see that there's a style expression which will help you to kind of to show the different colors based on whatever the status that you have, that your document is. So that helps you there. But let's see from where it takes that value. It gets updated whenever the records are being fetched, and the value is fetched from a method called get status style text. Eventually, that method is available on the table. So let's go ahead and look on table 36, and let's go into that method, and let me zoom this in. Now, in this method, if you see, there are only two colors that will be available as of today. If the document is open, it will be favorable. It shows you in green, bold green. If it is not open, which means if it is either release or pending approval or prepayments, then it'll show you as a strong. So that's the only option that are available by default for today. But the cool part is that there is an event available exactly after that. So if your customer needs more coloring because there are other colors or style expressions available, you can eventually subscribe to this event and define your uh, coloring for those different statuses based on your customer requirement. Now let's think about how that action is kind of working. So let's go back and look for the same page, 9305, I guess, if I remember it correctly. I'm hoping that it is. And if I look for the action for release, okay, there's action. And then if you come into the action area where what's happening is it's selecting the records that you have selected in the current page, and then it calls the perform manual release, which is a local method I'm hoping here or otherwise in the table. It's in the table. So let's go back again to 36 and let's search for this. Now there are two things to note here. One, that it let's first talk about how it operates. So it chooses how many records that you have selected, and that's how you see the number of selected record. And then it filters out how many are actually already released, and if they are released, then it gives you that or put that differential count into number of skipped, and that's how we see that message over there that the number of documents that are skipped. Then it sends it to the batch processing management, and then in the batch processing management, there's a new code unit added called sales manual release, which eventually calls the same code for releasing the documents. And then here are options for error handling, how you want to handle the error. Do you want to show the error? Do you want to hide the error? You can define that. As a, you cannot change this code, but then you think about, can I, can I, if I have a separate page based on the sales header table, let's say my sales order page, where I want to include this feature, that's where a little bit tricky part comes in. The method of perform manual release is tagged as internal. And in the same way, the perform manual reopen is also tagged as internal. A method of type internal can only be invoked from the same app, which means that if you have an extension, you cannot use the method perform manual release because it is already tagged as internal. So you cannot call this method from a custom page on sales order if you have created it. If you need it, I'm pretty sure you can create a copy of it in your page or in your uh, separate code unit where you can deal with it. But this method, as of today, is marked as internal, which limits it to be being called from any other extension other than base app. I don't know the reason why Microsoft will do that and make this internal, but if you are doing something and you need to call this method, just remember that you will not be able to find this because it is tagged as internal. The example of that would be, let's create a variable here. Let's say sales header. Oh my God, sales header. So if you try to do sales header dot perform manual release, you will find nothing. And the only reason is because that method is tagged as internal. So keep that in mind. If you have a custom page, you on the sales header table and sale, you will not be able to call that method because it is tagged as internal. You can surely change the color by subscribing to the event because there is an event available, but you will not be able to utilize that method in your custom objects because it's tagged as internal. So let me know what you think about this feature in the comments of this video, and I'll see you next time with a different topic about what's new in 2022 release wave 1. Thank you.